Speaking of, let's go. So first question is good or bad? What are trends in the top of funnel motion that you're noticing right now? And what do you have your eye on?
So trends positive or negative, Austin? What are you thinking?
Either one or both.
Okay, so let's go with trends negative. Trends negative, too much swapping analog for tech, right?
Mhm.
But that being said, tech used the right way to support analog is definitely a trend moving in the right direction. So where you can use it to support maybe some of the front end research, data gathering, industry knowledge, all that, beautiful. But definitely more of the trends now going back to some of the analog rhythms, which is really just picking up the phone and making personalized outbound again.
Yeah, it's the pattern disrupt, right? Being able to do
Yep.
that because it's analog, going back away from it.
Absolutely. You got a lot of sellers that were like, oh, cool, this is going to do it for me, and just kind of like leaned into it from that perspective. At some point, maybe it will, but the reality is, I think people are getting very annoyed from all of the body outreach. Right?
I mean, I don't blame them. It's tempting. I don't feel
Yeah.
like picking up the phone most of the time, but it also works, so I do it.
Yep, absolutely. And again, if you're using tech, leveraging tech, things like Top Sale, I don't know if I could drop that in here if that's being too direct, but
It's fine.
but tools like Top Sale where it's the tech side of it is let me make sure that the analog efforts you're making are being done well.
Yeah,
Good scrub data, right ICPs, easy functionality, all that kind of stuff. So tech supporting there, but that analog function for sure.
cool. And then
Yep.
on the good side, any positive trends, or are you mostly just catching it, like catching the negative and trying to just steer away from them?
I mean, I guess that I can flip that around to say it's like positive too, which is that it's, definitely still human to human, body to body, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and that's where big deals are going to continue to get won. It's harder and harder to know whether or not you're talking to a human robot or a human. So, being able to make sure that you've got good relationship value continues to increase, I think.
Yeah, nice. All right. So with that, like when you're looking at your top of funnel, how are you monitoring the health? And what are your canaries in the coal mine that tell you, hey, I got to change something?
Yeah, it's always a combination. We like to teach more, better, or different. So when you're looking at top of funnel, I think there's a knee-jerk reaction that it's always got to be more. But what it
Yeah.
should be is the lens of either more. Sometimes it is more, but sometimes it's just better, and sometimes it's different, right? So better means you're getting better training using companies like ours, making sure that your talk tracks are dialed in. Different might mean it's a different ICP, right? You're reaching out to the wrong person in an organization or the wrong types of organizations, and you got to think about a different strategy there. But top of funnel activities should be seen through that lens, and hopefully clients are tracking that data and they have some type of science to back up their hunches and assumptions. Otherwise, it's all opinions. And you know what my grandma used to say about opinions, Austin?
Everyone has one.
Yes, we'll leave it there.
Yeah. I like the R-rated version, which I think you're going for.
Yeah, like assholes. Everyone's got one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. You can edit
Um,
that out later.
yeah, yeah. No, we'll leave it in unless we get banned for it, but we'll see. Yeah, in terms of better and different, I mean, obviously it makes sense. More is more. That's an easy knob to turn.
Yep.
What are the challenges to doing the better or different and then saying like, okay, we got to do something different and then figuring out what it is and then deciding if that's the one.
Yeah. I mean, there's endless supplies of different, right? So I think sometimes it's like a sea of too many options, and that can be a little bit of analysis paralysis. But often different is better than good, we'll say, right? Like that's one of the go-tos that we like to lean on to. Different is better than good, right? You can try to be good, but if you really just need to do something different, just go do something different and figure out whether or not that was the right choice or wrong choice, and then pivot again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Take a guess, test it out, see what's going on. So
Yeah,
then,
absolutely.
yeah, on that front then, I mean, what would be like the tactical or tangible move that goes with that? Like, all right, I'm gonna try better or different. Is it setting up? I'm gonna just call 200 people and then look at that and make a decision, or like how do you structure that like actual tactical aspect of it?
Well, self-serving. I think it's impossible to connect the dots to a process that doesn't exist. So if selling is a function that's being done by winging it, right, through an
Mhm.
organization, and there's no formalized sales process to look at, it's hard to figure out what different even is because everyone's already doing different stuff anyway, right?
Yeah,
No one's reading from the same playbook. So first thing is align that playbook, make sure everyone's reading from the same, script or sheet music or whatever you're using process. and from there, learn where to tweak it. It's selling is no different from manufacturing in terms of a theory of constraints. If you're not tracking what's going in and where it's getting stuck before it comes back out, you can plug as much as you want in, but it's still going to get stuck at that constraint.
Hmm.
So different is learning how to approach the conversation in a way that doesn't necessarily align with what someone might expect, but in a healthy way to change the direction of where it goes. We call those pattern interrupts. I don't know if you want me to go into depth or detail on any of that stuff, Austin.
No, depth and detail sounds great.
Yeah. So, pattern interrupts, you've got normal patterns of behavior often in selling. I'll use a very quick example of it. Most sales calls, we're talking about outbound rhythms. Salespeople have a tendency to introduce themselves as representative of a company. And the problem is they're the only humans on the planet Earth that will call someone out of the blue and say, "Hey, Austin, it's Erik Meier calling from Sandler Training," right? Like
No.
every other casual dialogue would be, "Hey, Austin, it's Erik Meier." And then they wouldn't say a company that they represent. So just doing something like that, leaving the company out until it's relevant, is a pattern interrupt. It's much less likely to get someone's guards up quickly that they're the recipient of a sales call.
Yeah. One thing that you were telling me about was calling and then not even doing like a 30-second commercial, just dropping a name and then a
Yep.
number. And that really changed my mind on how to think about that. And then the second call, if you get a voicemail again, being, "Hey, I'm not trying to sell you something, I'm working on something." Just for my own personal edification, I was going to ask you at a different point, but let's do it here.
Yep.
When you were saying like, "Hey, I'm working on this project," I was like, "Ooh, that feels like not authentic to how I would say it myself." So I was thinking about like, "Hey, what if I said, 'Hey, I'm trying to find out if this makes sense for your industry?'" And then
Yeah.
is that like online with, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the project, right?
Yeah.
So the concepts in line, the words, I think should always be authentic to the person. So find the words that work.
Yeah. And
Yep.
then from that perspective, like there's also the value of going, "Hey, I understand your industry. I'm kind of an expert in fixing the problem that I'm calling you about. So I'm actually going to go more to the point." Like, so balancing those two ideas, how do you decide when you're going to make that transition from, "I'm curious, teach me, maybe I have a solution," to, "Hey, I've worked with people. This is the answer."
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's always interesting, right? Like, who cares more about your expertise, you or them?
Probably you, I'd guess, right?
Yeah, most of the time the seller is like more proud of their expertise. Buyer's interested in whether or not you understand their problem, right?
Yeah,
And order at least if they figure out that that is leading the conversation and that you seem to be genuinely interested and understand it, then you compare your expertise to it second. I think leading with that expertise just sounds overly arrogant in the recipient's mind, right?
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
Leading with curiosity for sure.
yep,
That seems way more natural for me as well, which is cool to hear.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So, with outbound being this difficult thing, what's one of your favorite counterintuitive facts about like funnel activity? Like, for
Just getting to
instance,
do it.
yeah, well, or like, I'll give you an example and I'll steal this
Yep.
one, which is low-hanging fruit, but like, calling somebody and they're retired and being like, "Well, that was a wasted dial." But actually, oftentimes you grab somebody who's retired, they're more willing to chat for 15 minutes, give you a lot of valuable information. They might know the exact person for you to call and be like, "Oh, by the way, here's your cell phone. I think you're a nice person."
Yep.
Um, and I've run into that, which I would have expected from not making the dial. This is a waste of time. But then, counterfactually, boom, actually, it's actually way more beneficial than calling a gatekeeper.
Yeah. I mean, you get 100% of the value in things you ask for versus things that you think about but don't ask for,
Yeah,
right? Actually, you know what? I had a funny story on that. It wasn't a cold call. It happened live here in our office. So I was coming back from the bathroom. You've been to our office, it's down the hall there, right?
yeah,
And I'm walking back and I'm coming across uh, the elevators, right? And this guy pops out and he looked a little confused, right? So I said, "Can I help you with anything?" And he said, "Yeah, is there a restroom down here?" And I said, "Yeah, I just came from it. It's up the hallway there, right?" And he said, "Well, thank you very much." He said, "Do you work here?" I said, "Yeah, I work here." I said, "What were you doing here?" He goes, "Well, I just came back from talking to my financial advisor." And I said, "Oh, that's interesting." He's up on the second floor. Yeah, we chit-chatted just a little bit. Anyway, long story short, to that point, he was telling me about how he had retired a couple of years ago, right? And I said, "Well, it's great. Where'd you work?" Right? And he started telling me that story. And I said, "I don't suppose you got anyone that took over from you that you could make an introduction to. I own this company around the corner, right? We're a sales management training business." And he's like, "You know what? I think they could use something like that." gave me his card. We set up an appointment, and
Yeah.
so be it. Right? That literally happened. Was it yesterday or the day before?
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's fun. That's cool.
Yeah.
You did steal my next question, which was your favorite story about an unsuspected win. So I'm either going to ask you for another unsuspected win question or force you to tell me like a counterintuitive fact, like calling the wrong person actually can get wins or something else along those lines.
Yeah. So I don't know if I can call that one the story I just told a win yet because I haven't had the conversation with his counterpart. But the win is at least I had the conversation, I suppose, right? Success is at least doing that. No, my favorite unexpected win actually was getting Ken as a client.
Hmm.
Uh, and as you know, Ken has been a part of our company now for almost 15 years as a
Yeah.
member of our team, but he started off as a client. And so before, tech was tech and you could get lists and all this other stuff. So going back to like 2010, maybe you could have, I just didn't know where to find them. So I'd grab like business publications and I'd call through them. And I had my hands on an expired chamber directory. It was
Hmm.
like 2 years old, right? And so that's what I was going to use to do my outbounds for the day. And I was like, why would I call it? It's an expired chamber directory, right? And I'm like, I don't have anything else to use today. I'm just going to use it. So I started calling through it. On like the 20th call, I got a hold of Ken, and he became one of my first clients because when we were starting the business. And then a year and a half later, he became employee one.
All right, that was awesome. I love
Yep.
that one. It reminds me like constantly that like sometimes it's like the fourth person down the line that you talk to about something. It's like, hey, we don't need you, but you should talk to that person. It's
Yep.
kind of like how you and I started working together, which is, I talked to somebody I used to work with. He said you talk to this other person, and then all of a sudden you and I are in a room having a conversation without any direct intent of, oh, here's Eric, I'm gonna go try to talk to him. But we were willing to
Yeah.
have the action and follow along and having conversations that were up front.
Be open to the dialogue. Don't be dismissive of the dialogue and just have it, right?
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
a perfect way to end this one because I think everyone should be thinking that, be open to the dialogue.
Let's go, Austin. Love it. Thanks for having me.